the last tutorial, I have shown you how you can connect your Shopware 6 store to Google Analytics and Facebook via our plugin Pixel Your Shop. And in this tutorial, I want to do the same, but for Google Tag Manager. Have fun! Welcome ladies and gentlemen, my name is Alexander Barton from your favorite Shopware agency, Shop Studio, and we are still above the clouds, even higher than the Shopware 6 clouds. This is the second part of the tutorial. In the last part, we have connected Pixel Your Shop with Google Analytics and Facebook. And in this part, we want to connect it to Google Tag Manager, because Google Tag Manager is still an important tool. I'm currently seeing the Shopware 6 admin extension screen. Do not forget to install and activate Pixel Your Shop before we can continue with the second part. I have already done it. After the activation, we can go to the storefront sales channel. And now we can see the tab again, Pixel Your Shop. And we need to go to Google Tag Manager to configure it. Similar to the first part of the tutorial, we have this opt-in part here, and we need to find out the Google Tag Manager container ID. And we have all the events necessary for forwarding it later to Google Analytics, Hotjar, Facebook and more via the Google Tag Manager. Let's find out where to get the Google Tag Manager container ID. I'm now in the Google Tag Manager, and the first thing we need to do is to create a new container. To create a new container, we have to click on those three dots here and now on Create Container. We need to give a name for the container. In our case, it's the name of the website or of the shop. I just paste it, remove all the not allowed characters, and here we go. The target platform is in our case web. After creating the container, you can now see that Google Tag Manager suggests you to create a tracking script. We don't need the whole script, we only need the container ID, and normally it's located here. It starts with GTM, then minus, and the unique ID. I copy it, I go back to the Shopware 6 administration, I paste the container ID, I enable the opt-in and click on save. If you don't see this mobile screen, it's also possible to see the container ID here. And I think in the administration part, you can see it on the top right side too. Now we go back to the Shopware 6 administration, and the opt-in is already activated, but we need to activate all the necessary events too. If you don't know which events are important, just activate everything. Alright, everything is now activated. I click now on save, and here we go. This part is almost done. It's a nice thing for debugging purposes to go to the extensions, My Extensions. And on the right side, you can see those three dots like in the previous tutorial. We click on configuration and enable the pixel event debug or debugging in the JavaScript console. Now we go to the storefront and we check the result. To check the result, we need to enable the browser console with a right click, and then we go to the tab console. Pixel opt-in in Google Tag Manager is blocked due to missing cookie consent. The problem was because I created a previous tutorial that I need to enable the cookies again, but they are already accepted. As a developer, I know how to reset the cookie consent. We need to go to the cookies. I just delete everything here. It's much easier. Alright, now we can see it again. On the console, click on configure, and now under marketing I can see that Google Tag Manager is enabled. We see now that the Google Tag Manager has been triggered, even with the correct ID. And now if we just go through the shop, for example, we go to the category side, we can now see view product list event. We can of course add products to the cart, and a new event called add to cart has been submitted to Google Tag Manager. Like in the previous tutorial, this part is working, this is good. But there's one catch with Google Tag Manager, because Google Tag Manager is like a separate data layer between your shop and the end result, getting your data to Facebook, Google Analytics, Hotjar, Google Ads and more. But it doesn't work out of the box. You just can go through the sections here, through the tags and the triggers and the variables, And the problem is you need to configure everything. You need to configure text, triggers, variables, connect it, and then you have a chance to submit the data to Google Analytics. And this separate layer is a complicated abstraction layer, but we have already solved the issue here in the agency because we have created a pre-built template for you. You can just download it and install it to Google Tag Manager, and of course just configure your IDs like the Facebook Pixel ID and Google Analytics Stream ID, and there you go. It's just all then. To find and download the Google Tag Manager template, we need to go to the Shopware store page. So this is our starting point, and if you scroll down, you can see here the installation manual, and here you can find the documentation. And within the documentation, you can find the template if you go to Tracking and then to Google Tag Manager. Here you can find the template. It's called GTM template and then the specific version. We click on it, and now we need to copy the whole template, but except this upper part here, only starting from here. This might be a bit confusing, but this is the problem with my documentation software, Gitbook. I copy everything, and now I create a new file, but once again, without the first lines here, starting from line 4. I have created the new file, and now I'm back in the Google Tag Manager. To import this new file, we need to go to the admin, and then you can here see the import container section. We click on it, and then we select the file to import, and afterwards we need to choose the workspace. In our case it's existing. We choose the default workspace, and the import option is override. As a preview, you can see that this template installs 34 new tags, 30 new triggers, 55 variables, and 0 template. And this is really much work to create. As a last step, we need to click on confirm. Perfect. We have now imported all the triggers, tags, and more. And if we go to the folders part of Google Tag Manager, we can see that all the triggers and tags are structured within folders here. Here, for example, we can see all the variables and triggers related to the Pixel shop. There we can see all the tags and variables related to Pinterest. And here the same for Hotjar. Here you can see some Google Analytics tags. Here for Google Ads, including dynamic remarketing. And for one example for conversion. And here you can see the Facebook tags. The last thing we need to do now is to add the tracking IDs for Facebook and Google Analytics. It's very easy. You just go to the Facebook Pixel ID variable and you replace the value, change it. This is the same for Google Analytics. Here you can see the tracking ID for Google Analytics. You just replace the value, change it. If you don't know how to get the Google Analytics tracking ID or Facebook tracking ID, just go back to the first tutorial where you can see how I set up it directly for Pixel Your Shop. One more note. If you haven't configured Hotjar, for example, or Pinterest, you get some trouble because the Hotjar site ID is still changed, and the Google Tag Manager will try to load the Hotjar tracking script and the same for Pinterest with the idea change it, but it won't work because this ID is not valid. If you are not using Hotjar or Pinterest, you can try to disable it either by deleting it, or maybe you can change the trigger from all pages to something which is not valid. Maybe something like all pages except all pages. And then afterwards, Hotjar won't get triggered anymore. The same for Pinterest. Now we just submit the changes and publish them. We click on continue, and that's all. Google Tag Manager is now connected to Google Analytics and to Facebook. Of course, if you insert the ID, it's published, and Shopware is submitting data to Google Tag Manager. This is all for the tutorial. Hopefully you have learned a little bit, even though Google Tag Manager is maybe not that easy, but of course the template makes it easier. And as always, do not forget to subscribe to the channel or leave a like or review below. We see us in the next tutorial. Bye.